a British scholar, a scholar from the UK, was being interviewed by our guy, Don Lemon. And he started talking about how, times are pretty rough right now, tough for people all over the world economically. And he said now would be the time, basically, in so many words, that the British people paid reparations for slavery. Now, this lady is highly intelligent, you could tell this, and she knew her history. And she just got Don Lemon told. Now, the reason I love this so much is because white people seem to want to shrink back and when black people throw stuff in their face about slavery or this, that, and the other. But this woman, in fact, it was so good. She agreed with him about the reparations. But her thing was, like anybody with any kind of sense and historical fact would say, we need to go back to the beginning of the supply chain, basically. Who started it? When you're talking about somebody repaying something for something, who is it that needs to do the repay? Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the supply chain. Who started it? And who was it that started it? Of course, Africans. African kings and tribe leaders or whatever. This is history. Historical facts were the ones that sold their own people. Caught them, chained them, caged them, and sold them into slavery. Because basically they were traded for weapons, silk, sugar, or whatever it is that they needed. That's what they were traded for. So the woman basically said, there were no people running over in Africa grabbing Africans. I was like, oh, tell it, lady, tell it. She says, their own people had them in cages, waiting for somebody to come and get them. And that is historical facts. Because see, what has been going on in America. Now, I don't know whether Don Lemon knew these historical facts or he just trying to keep the narrative going. I don't know. But he didn't have an answer. He was just sitting there saying, that's an interesting conversation, a discussion, and he ended it. Because, of course, that's not what he expected. Because white people are so easily, ashamed. Be ashamed of being white. You did all this stuff, even though they didn't have anything to do with it. But I'm going to throw up slavery, and I'm going to blame you for it. When the facts of the matter is, first of all, there have been slaves for years. America didn't start slavery. All kinds of people have been enslaved by other people. It's just not white people enslaving black people and only in America and only in Great Britain. Yes, slavery, the institution of slavery was horrible. It's horrible for anybody to be enslaved. But, again, let's get to the facts. But see, they don't want that. Because a lot of people in America are ignorant. Okay, let's be for real. Let's be just honest. A lot of people don't know history, especially the generation that's coming up now. That's why they're trying their best to erase some of the history that, that shows that clearly the Democrats were the ones that was enslaving people and trying to keep the slavery going. That's why they tear down statues. Every statue they want to tear down is a statue of a Democrat. They say it's a Confederate. They're a Democrats, okay? And nobody switched parties. That's a lie, too. There's no evidence of anybody switching parties. They want to do that, too. They want to take all the blame off of it. But they know that most people in America, especially black people, do not know history. So they have convinced black people in America that, first of all, America was the one that invented slavery. Only America. And black people are the only people that's been enslaved. That's what they've convinced people in America, black people in America, who are ignorant of history and facts. So this thing needed to be said. I was so glad that lady said that. I'm like, and she didn't back down. And that's what I like, because a lot of people, even if they know these facts, a lot of white people would, shrink back. And that's what he thought was going to happen. She wasn't going to have it. And I enjoyed every minute of it. I enjoyed it. Ever since the Queen's death, black people over in Great Britain, and I guess maybe here in America too, have been talking about the monarchy is guilty for colonization and this, that, and the other. And they're using Queen Elizabeth's death as to blame her. Now, she only ascended to the throne because her uncle abdicated because he wanted to marry a divorced woman. So she was thrown into being the queen. But she was only 90-something years old. Slavery's been over for years. So yes, the monarchy might have been responsible for all this colonization they're talking about, but why blame Queen Elizabeth? She wasn't around when that was going on. But any excuse to start this victim mentality and blaming white people for something. And I was just so glad that this lady said that she corrected the record. And that's what needs to happen. All white people, if the ones that don't have an agenda, the ones that know history, whenever a lie is thrown up in their face and they're being accused, because listen, nobody from the outside ever is responsible for the destruction of any community. I don't care what community it is. It's always done from the inside. Even in your personal lives. If your life is messed up, you did it. You had something to do with it. Or if you were a child at the time, your parents. But no outside people have ever caused a community to fall apart. It's always inside. Just like right now in the black community. And of course, black Democrats get mad when you say that. Because they want to blame outsiders. They want to blame Whitey. They want to blame this person and that person. When all their representatives in Congress are black. Most of them live in a district run by somebody black. From the local politicians all the way up to D.C. And their communities are still in a mess. In fact, they're getting worse. And they're still blaming whites, and there's no white people nowhere around. So this needed to be said. I just wanted to get on here and say that because, I made a video about 3 or 4 years ago about this same thing. And you should have seen some of the comments from black people. When I pointed out the historical fact that it was Africans catching and enslaving and selling black people to white people. See, white people didn't think it up. The white people in America didn't think it up. They didn't say, they weren't just sitting around one day. How would they know that there was going to be some slaves? It was the transatlantic slave trade. That's a business. They knew about that. They just weren't sitting at home on their front porch and saying, I want some slaves. Let's get on a ship and go to Africa and catch those people. Does that make logical sense? No. You cannot go into someone else's territory, their home. Just like if somebody breaks into your house, a stranger. They're not going to know where everything is. They'd have to be familiar with your house and the layout and all that. Well, just like when we go to foreign countries when I was in the military, we had to study the terrain and all that. Because we didn't know. When I went to Iraq, we had to do all that. Because that was not our home. And of course, the people that live in that land know their own home. They know where everything is. And then truly will not. So, do you think that white people just got up one day and said, let's get us a ship and go to Africa and catch those people? And you don't even know, do you think the people who's going to stand there and let you catch them? Outsiders. And you're going to get off a ship in a foreign land and start running and grabbing black people. And then you're just going to stand there and let you do it. And not fight you back. But that's the lie that was told. Roots helped tell that lie because that was a fiction. That white people just showed up one day and started grabbing black people. Only a fool would even try that. So the lie has been going on for years. I remember it used to be a special. All the time, I don't know whether it was CNN or a headline or whatever, but it was a special. Slavery in America. And I used to get angry every time I heard that because they wanted to specify, make it specific to America. Slavery in America, like there was no slavery nowhere else. They want to keep talking about it over and over again, especially when Obama was in office. What's that lady named Soledad O'Brien? I think that's how you pronounce her name. She had a special called Black in America. All during Obama's first 4 years and up until his second election. As soon as he won his second election, they got rid of her. So her program was no good anymore. But that was to keep the divide going and keep slavery and discrimination in the minds of black people. To keep them up, emotionally angry. So soon as Obama won his second election, they got rid of her. But that was her program, Black in America. I mean, just America did all this. America, white people. Every problem we have is because of white people in America. Now, I've watched a lot of documentaries about the 50s and the civil rights movement and all of that. And yes, there was a lot of discrimination. But one thing I did learn from all those is the family was still together. The black families were intact. And the black people were proud. They dressed. The women were elegantly dressed. The men wore suits and ties. They were proud people. They owned businesses. There was doctors and lawyers when they would not allow us black people to shop at their stores, couldn't eat at their restaurants. Black people opened their own restaurants. They had their own doctors, cleaners, you name it. Every business, hotels, retreats where you could go and have a good time. Everything that white people had, black people had under segregation, and it were not torn up, raggedy places either. They were nice ballrooms, theaters, you name it. And it makes me proud every time I watch all those documentaries, because I realize, yes, they were discriminating against us, but we were highly educated people. But the families were intact. Now you look at today. Now we got every right, even though they try to make it seem like black people don't have rights, even though every U.S. citizen has the exact same rights right now. There's no rights that white people have that you don't have. And if somebody does, if you have a legitimate case where you're being discriminated against, according to your civil rights are being discriminated against, don't you know that you could sue? The civil rights attorneys would be salivating, running towards you if you have a legitimate case. But see, the gripes are just made up. That's what they are now, made up. But our ancestors fought hard for all these rights. And they were doing better than some of us are doing today. And we have the rights. So how do you explain that? So yes, I was so happy when that lady, I think they say she's a scholar, when she schooled Don Lemon about what was really going on, who started it? Who started the slavery? Who did it? That's the person that should be paying. And that is the truth. And I was so glad she said it. And I just said, let me get on here and just say that. And I know a lot of black people gonna get mad. They got mad when I did my other video. But facts are just facts. Facts are just facts. We have to look into our own lives and see what's causing problems. In your personal life, if there's a problem, in my personal life, when there's a problem, it's me. And it's never gonna get fixed unless I do something about it. I have to do something. I can blame the next door neighbor all day long. 10 years from now, I'll still be having the same problem. The same thing with the black community. Until we wake up, get rid of these black Democrats that's trying to, if anybody's oppressing you, wouldn't it be the person that's your Congress people, your local politicians? All of them mostly are black. Even the police chiefs are black. The mayors are black. Everybody's black that has any power over you, any power to make laws or decisions over you. All of those people are black, yet still white is the one oppressing you. Explain that to me. That's all I wanted to say, people. Have a blessed day.